Hello, I'm Hubert from the SiR Academy, General Manager. And when we discussed Chapter 1, we were discussing the vision, and now it's time to turn that vision into ambition. And then in Chapter 2, what we are dealing with is designing a goodwill-based dashboard of operational excellence. We want to measure what we're going to do at one point. And with me, we have Olaf. And Olaf, thank you for being with us. Can you explain me a little bit more about what is happening on business level when we are talking about a dashboard for SiR, for Service Integrated Relationship?
Yeah, it's fun because SiR, Service Integrated Relationship, and goodwill as a key concept was developed from a consumer perspective. So when we're talking business level, we make a leap like, okay, when we have all this goodwill and we sum it over all the customers, then we have basically company goodwill. But then how does it fit into the traditional business performance schedules, schemes? And so we started to do the research about that. And I think there's, as you see in the training, which we will discuss with the participants, most companies use balanced scorecards and have dashboards of operational excellence. They are kind of similar, but also different. So when we look in balanced scorecards, you have these layers of learning, operations, market outcomes like market share, customer satisfaction, and the financial results. When we're looking at operational excellence, we're looking at efficiency, effectiveness of processes. We're looking at customer value. We're looking at growth, typically an operational excellence objective, and we're looking at uniqueness. Now, the interesting thing is when we started to measure goodwill in companies, we started to see that there's of course relationships between goodwill and all of those metrics. If we look at, for instance, at goodwill, it's clear that customers will become more loyal. The entire customer base will be more loyal, which actually allows to invest less in marketing and more in growth, which is, again, an operational excellence domain. It's clear that when you have goodwill among your customers, that you have a deeper and higher level of satisfaction, which is also a traditional business success metric. So it's very important that while we know theoretically that there is a link between goodwill and those traditional metrics, of course we need to establish the links in the specific companies that the participants are working in. So it could be that for different businesses, different in industry, but also different in size, but also different in the stage of their development, that goodwill affects more or less these different domains. But before we can make a case, a value case for what will goodwill bring to the company, we need to have an understanding of all those linkages, and they are idiosyncratic, specific to every company. So we know that there is that these schemes work, and that goodwill plays an important role in operational excellence and in balanced scorecards. But we need to, operationalize it.
We know what we have to do on a business level, what is going to be changed and what we have to take into account. As you said, operational excellence and all the measurements for that. But what is needed on the customer level, meaning that there is something like satisfaction, there is something like Net Promoter Score, NPS, and there is something like goodwill. But what does it mean on the customer level then?
Well, first we understand who is responsible for the customer level. So it's clear that when the C-suite of people decides that we want to go to have a vision on the business, that at some point the people in marketing and operations, who are especially the people we will invite for the sessions here, will be in charge of managing the customer. And so traditionally they have done so by measuring satisfaction and Net Promoter Score. Satisfaction already 20 years ago, and Net Promoter Score more recently in a time of customer engagement. And now comes goodwill is the new metric on the block, because of any customer at any time we can measure goodwill. There's different way of doing that. That's also, by the way, something that we will address during the training. So what are the different ways of measuring goodwill more extensively, but also sometimes in a single question. So with a single question you can measure customer goodwill. But then it's how do these three relate? So does actually customer goodwill add information about the customer more than satisfaction and NPS, which actually people in services and marketing environments can use to optimize their interaction with the customer. And if we look at that, it's really fun, and we will discuss that. It's clear that goodwill is a forward-looking metric. When we're looking at NPS and satisfaction, they are backward-looking metrics. For what you did yesterday, for the price you asked yesterday, I think that you are like really good and so on. Goodwill is a resource. So satisfaction and NPS, if you have that among your customers, you're not really sure about what you're going to have from these customers in the future. So goodwill is actually measuring the future. It's a shadow of what we can expect or what we can do with the customer in the future. And that, of course, if we know that, it offers a lot of insight about how far we can include the customer in our processes. And it's really important to know the level of goodwill. If the goodwill is low, we will probably have to do most of the work and just have them pay. But if the goodwill is high, then we know that the customer has more time, resources, ideas, skills for us available to optimize value.
Indeed, it's interesting that you said goodwill it's much more like a motivational concept.
Yeah.
That when a company is doing something, and it says this is why we do it, but the customer will ask them, why are you doing that? Is rather more than why are you giving me or selling me the product or that kind of service.
Yeah.
So in that orientation of how is that dynamics between the two of them?
Yeah. So
it could be in a static way, it could be dynamic, it could be.
Yeah, it's clear.
Is it to me? Is it to more people involved or groups of people? Or how do you see that?
Yeah, here we come into an interesting point. So relationship orientation is a metric that is related to goodwill. We get goodwill from the customer if we show that we are relationship oriented towards the customer. And that's the big difference. In business strategy, we just promised that we were better. But now it's not like what we do, but it's like, yeah, but you know, what is your intention? What do you want from me? So what is my place in it? So the customers are not so much interested in what you do, that is the CX level, but the CX plus level, like what are we having together?
Yes.
Yeah, so what's in it for us? It's a shared project. Now the interesting thing is that there is no one size fits all here, because some company, I for instance mentioned Ritz hotels, they have signature products. They are proud of the products that they create. And interestingly, you know that in customer centricity, we always said like we have to move from product centricity to customer centricity. But basically, many companies are product centric, are fantastic companies. They create, you know, bespoke. When you are Rolls-Royce, you don't want to be customer oriented in a way. Well, your customer oriented is being expressed in the way that you, create with craftsmanship your products. So product orientation sometimes can be the perfect way of expressing yourself and your motivation towards the customer. But you can also have great brands. You can express your motivation through brand, like Apple.
Exactly.
You can be market oriented, where you promise the customer that you try to be everywhere in the world, that that you are available, that you are aware of trends. But you can also have service oriented companies that say like whatever your problem is, we will solve it. You can be customer oriented, like take a genuine interest in their background. So there's many orientations, and in the workshop we will actually confront the participants with, what is your motivation? And we know, we did the workshops already, that it is very confrontational, very insightful in creating a mix of motivations that as a company you want to convey to your customer.
So as a result, finally, what's going to happen is that there will be a dashboard created
That is right.
based on the fact that is what they are aiming for. And that dashboard will indeed measure then the so-called goodwill.
Well, if you look at the new metrics that will enter, so besides satisfaction and net promoter score, we will measure goodwill. We will measure perceived relationship motivation. It is measurable, sometimes in 1 or 2 questions, and it is important to include that and take that feedback. We will include a measure of co-creation, that is the degree of activity of customers. Very important. That measure is often unrelated to net promoter score. Net promoter scores people are not always active customers. They are very happy with what you did. They think you're best in class, but it doesn't mean that they are participating in your process. So for that you need goodwill, you need relationship orientation. Only then you start to see that the resources of customers start to deploy. So we start to model. We will help you expand your customer dashboard, but not just for managerial purposes, but for service operational purposes. So for your contact center, for your marketing people, so that when they have a better picture of what customers are actually thinking and what they think their role is in your company, then of course you can tailor your campaigns, your service, and so on to that. But we will use the new metrics. We will create them for your companies in this training. So it's an important takeaway. And we will make sure that you can actually take the dashboard and also create a baseline scan, like how are you doing today on those really critical metrics of the future.
Good. So if you're hunting for goodwill and you want to have a good dashboard in order to see where you stand today and where will you go over time in your efforts of achieving this, I would say, new relationship, the service integrated relationship, please enroll for chapter 2.